If you're a plumbing, heating, or cooling contractor trying to figure out everything on your own, I need to tell you something right now. You don't have to do this alone. Most contractors struggle not because they're bad at the trade, but because they're isolated. They're making big decisions with no sounding board, no guidance, and no community. That's why I want to introduce you to something every serious contractor should know about, PHCC. That stands for the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors. It's an association. PHCC exists in almost every state, and it's made up of contractors just like you, people who've raised their hand and said, I want better, I want connection, and I'm willing to help others succeed too. Inside PHCC, you'll find a local community of like-minded contractors who share ideas, lessons learned, and real-world experience, not just theory. And it's not just contractors. You'll also find affiliate and associate partners, companies that already understand our industry and will eventually play a role in your business as you grow. This is about surrounding yourself with people who want to win together. Let's get into it. What is PHCC? I hear that all the time, and I used to say it myself. So let's get into what PHCC really is. PHCC, the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors, is an association in the United States of America, one of the oldest associations, and they are an association, a group of plumbing, heating, cooling contractors. And what do they do? Well, they get together and help each other out. They help each other out with all sorts of things. They've got education, they've got fun things, and they have advocacy things. What's advocacy? I just thought of this this morning, actually. Advocacy is like protesting, except like with a plan, right? Like not on the streets, but we actually go to our state capitol or we go to Washington, D.C., and we visit with and discuss issues and talk to lawmakers and help them understand our concerns. That's kind of the way things are designed to work, right? So that there's advocacy. It's a best practice vertical. That's another way to say what PHCC is. There are best practice verticals out there, but PHCC is the only one with political clout. Does that make sense? Like others will help you with your business, but PHCC will help you with your business, but they also are the only ones. They got a whole political wing. We have lobbyists at Washington, D.C. that work, this gas ban stuff. What do you think about the gas ban? Is that good or bad? Well, you can complain about it in your truck all day, or you can connect with other contractors in your area and your state and even nationally and go talk to the lawmakers and say, hey, appreciate your thoughts, but this is what I think, and this is why I think it, right? Kind of cool. It's kind of the way that America works. So that's why I got involved initially with PHCC. In the state of Washington, we had this law that only one residential plumber can sign for 2 apprentices. And so we wanted it to be 3. One plumber can sign for 3 apprentices. And, well, do you think you can can you think you can change a law in your state by yourself? Do you think you and me can do it? Probably not. I doubt it. But when you belong to an association, we gathered together. We got a bunch of plumbing contractors together, part of the association, and we learned to lobby. We had a lobbyist here in the state, and then Mark Valentini from national PHCC. He's an awesome professional lobbyist that advocates on plumbing, heating, cooling contractors' behalf every day. That's his whole full-time job. He came to Washington and kind of taught us the ropes and how to do it and what to say and how to think about it. And we actually passed a law and got 1 residential plumber to be able to sign for 3. We also got remote supervision. Our law was last revised like in 1972 or something. And so a lot's changed since then, right? In the last, 45 years. So now, like doctors can remote supervise. Why can't plumbers? And so now, in Washington, if your supervisor is within 40 miles, you can be supervised as long as you can talk on the phone, right? Because we've got video chat and all that stuff, right? So that we couldn't have done that without PHCC. Not a chance. Not a chance. So that's what, when you hear the word advocacy, you know those some things that you complain about, you drive around the truck and wish things were different? You can actually connect with your local PHCC. They're in almost every state. And you can deal with things at the state level. And then once a year, we get together in the spring and go to Washington, D.C. and talk to congressmen and lawmakers. It's a pretty cool experience. That's one unique thing about PHCC is the advocacy side. Pretty cool. It's so cool to understand that I don't just have to complain in my truck, that if something's actually important, we can get together and do something about it in an organized fashion. Another thing they do is education. You know, there are some states that require a PHCC apprenticeship to become a plumber. That's not how it is in the state of Washington, but many states it is that way. They're really big on education, especially apprenticeships. They actually have competitions for apprentices. There's a national. Did you know you can be a national champion plumber or HVAC tech apprentice? They put on competitions. Some states have their own competition, and there's one nationally at their Connect show every year. Pretty cool, huh? So there's training for everybody. Like, how do you learn? Like these young people, they don't lack capacity. They lack teachers. And do you think that you can teach them everything there is to know? I doubt it. I can't. Like, there's not time in the day, right? But what if there was some books to read? What if there was a class to take? What if there was a course to go through in addition to the fine training that you're doing for them in the field? Well, there is. And so there's that. So they've got education. They've got education on how to be a foreman and also and how to figure out your pricing. They got all sorts of education on how to run your business. And then they also get together locally. They do some fun stuff. They have conventions. You know, I used to never go to a convention. There's some people that are really against conventions and some people that are for them. I used to be against them. I used to get invited to conventions all the time, and I would always say, no, I'm too busy trying to make money and make payroll. And frankly, it was payroll to payroll for several years. What I didn't realize is the power of getting away from your business. Like, you're so focused on your business that it's powerful to tear yourself away. And it seems like the farther away you get, the easier it is to look at it. And then what's really cool is when you go and connect with other people that understand your business, because they've got one too, and they might have been where you're at and have dealt with the issues that you're dealing with and can give you some ideas. It's pretty amazing. Once I figured that out, I try not to miss any plumbing convention, because somehow getting away, connecting with other people, and coming back, I always come back with an idea that changes my business. Absolutely changes it for the better. It's never not happened. You know, I got into business kind of in a weird way. My father-in-law had a heart attack, and so I was already in the business. I was going to become a plumber, but then 3 months after I got there, he had a heart attack. And so I jumped right into managing and selling jobs and estimating, and I was over my head. And so this is a major mistake of mine that I hope you don't repeat. And that is, I kind of thought of everybody as my enemy, and I knew I didn't know what I was talking about. I was over my head. So I really buckled down and tried to figure out my business by myself. I guess I was kind of embarrassed. I didn't want people to know that I didn't know what I didn't know. You know what I mean? And I figured it out eventually. Like I said, it took about 15 years. What I didn't realize was I could have picked up the phone and joined PHCC and says, hey, I'm Dennis. My father-in-law's had a heart attack and suddenly I'm in the driver's seat and I don't know what I'm doing. And I wonder if someone could help me out. What I didn't realize is there were a host of plumbing companies, the owners that would have gladly given me a hand. They would have come, visited my shop. They would have invited me to their shop to learn how to run my business. And that 15 years would have been way shorter. Yeah, I know it would have, but I didn't. And so one of the reasons I'm making this video is to encourage you. Most people are out there trying to figure it out on their own. We just kind of have this independent streak in us. And it seems is that a trade trait, or is that everybody? I'm not really sure, but it seems like we're pretty independent. But there's only so much time. You only got so much time to figure this out. And you want to figure it out quick and then enjoy the benefits of being in business, or do you want to take 40 years and figure it out right about when you're time to retire and you haven't built much of a business because it took you too long to figure it out, right? So, man, we're better together. It takes a village. We've always heard those things. It's so true. No successful business that you see did it by themselves. They got coaching. They joined some kind of group. There are groups to join. Oftentimes you've got to go somewhere to join a group. What's cool about PHCC is it's local. Now, sometimes people don't like that. They're like, well, I don't want to share ideas with my competitor. I used to think my competitors were my enemies too, until I matured. And I really do mean mature. And once I figured out, we're more like golfers. We're golfers playing against the course, against the marketplace. Does that make sense? So when you start to see your fellow contractor as a fellow golfer playing against the course of the marketplace, that's really how it works. And do you really think about it? Do you want your competitor to be way worse than you? Does that make sense? You want your competitor to be good so that you don't stick out like a sore thumb, right? And like you guys want to raise the level of service so that everybody's doing better and it works out for everybody. A rising tide raises all ships, and it's true. It just works. So if you see your competitors as competition, I encourage you to think a little bit different. It's a higher thinking. It's a higher level of thinking. I encourage you, if you have any questions about it, DM me in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. But that's been my experience. I used to think that my competitors in my marketplace were my competition, and I grew to no longer think that. So what is PHCC? PHCC is a community of like-minded plumbing, heating, cooling contractors that understand that we're better together, work together, help each other out. There's a couple more things. Real life experience. One time I was in a situation, my insurance, my underground insurance got held up with the city. Something changed with the city, and all of a sudden I was red tagged, and I had 3 sewer jobs open. And I needed permits on them. I'd been a side sewer contractor for 17 years at that point. And all of a sudden I've got 3 jobs ready for inspection. I can't get a permit for. I can't get inspection for. I can't get a permit for. I'm red tagged. So I go down to the city. I'm like, what are you talking about? We didn't have subsidence of land coverage. What are you talking about? What's subsidence of land coverage? Subsidence of land coverage is if you're digging along a side of a foundation of a home, like to replace a sewer, and what if that building collapsed into the trench? That's subsidence of land. We didn't have it. It was required by the city the whole time. Our insurance missed it. And so we had to get it, and it cost like $40,000. It was a giant number. And it took me a couple days to get it figured out. Well, I called my local PHCC friend, and he let me use his license so I could get those jobs covered. So he took on significant risk. I had 3 sewer jobs open. But because we were buddies and he knew me and I knew him, he knew what I was about and how I ran my company, he trusted me. And he got me the 3 permits and I got my jobs done and it all worked out great. Do you think that would have happened if he was a stranger? No, not in your life. So that's what I mean about working together. We're better together and we can help each other out. You can't do everything by yourself. It doesn't work. The other way it benefits is there's also associates and affiliates. Associate and affiliates are businesses that we all need at some point. Like we all need business insurance. Federated Insurance, I think, is probably the best. And they're a big sponsor in PHCC. And so they're there. But I'll tell you a really cool story. One of my favorite stories. I was going to some lunch and learns. We had lunch and learns, and I was going. It was talking about banking, and I was kind of listening, but I'm not really. Banking wasn't my thing at the time. I'm just trying to figure out how to make payroll and make my business work, and how do I find more plumbers? Right? Have you ever been there? And anyway, banking, wah wah wah, profit and loss, balance sheet, wah wah wah, right? Well, I figured we got our business figured out, and we're growing. And we're actually got so big that we couldn't fit into our shop anymore. I was holding my meetings at a local church. The cops we're getting the cops called on us because we're parking in front of houses and neighbors and stuff. It was a mess. So we're looking for property. We're looking for another shop. We find one, finally. And guess what? Now that we find this big shop, now we need financing. We need a banker. Who do we call? I know. I actually only know one. He's the guy that put on the lunch and learn. I gave him a phone call, and guess what he said? Hey, Dennis, what's going on? Long time no see. Yeah, how's it going? And I go, hey, I found a building. We're buying a building. Could you be our banker? And guess what he said? Of course. And it was silky smooth and went perfect. And guess why? Because he knew our business. He knew us personally. He knew our reputation. And he also knew our industry. So he had questions to ask. He knew what to do. And it was just like super smooth. So instead of going to the internet and looking up who do I call for a banker, because of PHCC, we already knew a banker that knew us personally and understood our industry. So that's what an affiliate and associates are. They're businesses that we're going to need at some point in our career. And they're there because they like our industry. They understand it. They get it. And they're there to become familiar with us. They want us to be familiar with them so that when we need them, we know who to call. And that worked for me brilliantly. So what is PHCC? PHCC is an essential component to every plumbing, heating, cooling contractor that exists. In my opinion, there's no reason that every PHCC contractor isn't a member of the PHCC. And here's also one more reason why before I let you go. When we're advocating at the state or national level, talking about why we don't want a gas ban or whatever else is coming down the pike, when we're talking to lawmakers, almost always they ask, and how many members do you represent? And if it's 5, they're like, oh, they're not even going to listen. So the more people that you represent, the more power you have. Not only, you just have more numbers that you're representing. And it doesn't hardly cost anything to be a member. Like it's peanuts. Like it's a nonprofit. It's not like some other best practices are $20,000 or $30,000 a year. Like PHCC is different in every state, but it's a couple $100 a month, I bet. It's nothing. It literally is nothing on your balance sheet. But being a member allows PHCC to count you as far as who they represent at the state level, which gives them clout, but also then it brings you in relationship with other plumbing, heating, cooling contractors that want to work together for the common good. and also brings you in relationship with the other affiliate and associate businesses that you, as you grow, will need at some point. All right, so what's PHCC? It's the next thing you sign up for. Look up PHCC in your state, sign up. It'll be one of the best decisions you make. All right, see you next time.